back to my channel. It's been a bit of a while, just because Christmas, you know, everything, just haven't had time. When I say haven't had time, what I mean is that I've been very busy cooking, and baking takes up a lot of time because it's my major preoccupation. So I do spend a lot of time cooking and baking. And my days are quite condensed anyway because I have a very early bedtime. That's something else. I go to bed at children's time because it takes me a while to get settled and I need a lot of time to kind of adjust to being in bed, so I have to have a very early bedtime. I follow a very strict routine. I always go to bed at the same time, which is kind of around by 8 o'clock basically. Yeah, it's early. I haven't changed the clocks. So actually I am operating an hour ahead of everyone else. I do know what the real time is, but I'm operating according to the time before the clock change. I never change the clocks. Yes, that's something that might surprise you, and some people might think it's a bit weird, but it's part of my autism. I hate change, and I don't go out much. I only go out for my walk once a day, so I follow my own self-state schedule, which I only need to be aware of the real time when I'm interacting with other people, like for my groups and stuff, and then obviously I do know what the real time is because it says on the computer. So I go to bed very, very, very early. I guess by your time that'll be about 7:30. By my time it's 8:30. And that's something else I wanted to talk about actually, but not too much in this video, and I haven't really prepared any notes for this. But I wanted to just touch upon slow processing, because this is something that is very much a big part of my profile, is that I have very, very slow processing speed. That's actually been tested, by the way. 2018, when I had because I was assessed as a child by an educational psychologist, which I have talked about in other videos, where I had a neuropsychological kind of workup, as it were, or intelligence testing and everything. But I had another test when I was in 2018 because I requested one because I wanted to find out what had changed, or, you know, and just to have a more kind of like up-to-date cognitive assessment. So yeah, so I did have another one in 2018 as an adult. And that one also assessed my processing speed, which wasn't assessed when I was a child, but I had it assessed as that bit I had assessed as an adult, because as a child I just had like an IQ test. It didn't really tap into those other areas like processing speed or working memory, but I had those assessed as an adult, and my processing speed is, to quote from a report, in the very intellectually I think they said functioning in the extremely low, in something intellectual range or something like that, or extremely low intellectual processing speed. I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but yeah, basically my processing speed is extremely slow compared to my high verbal IQ. And also, as you know, I have a very low non-verbal IQ. So I have this massive spiky profile is what they call it. In my case, it's very extreme. A psychologist actually said that to me, that basically she hadn't actually come across anyone with quite as big a split as what I have, even though it's common in autism, but my split is kind of off the charts. I mean, I'm sure there are other people out there who have a split as big as mine, but I guess it is pretty rare, even for autism standards, to have a split that big. So yeah, I'm a bit of a rare breed in that respect. But extremely slow processing speed does, I feel, affect me a lot. And I do think it's behind a lot of my problems, particularly social problems, because when I'm in a social situation, by the way, I'm not in social situations that much at all anymore, because I'm such a hermit, but when I do, like, for example, attend groups online, like Zoom calls, because everything's online for me now. I do notice this, and I think it is caused by my slow processing, because it's got to be, because it basically, what I'm trying to say is that it takes me a lot of time to process what is going on socially. So in a group situation in particular, in any social situation, but particularly in group situations where you have several people, it's really hard for me to stay on track in terms of focus, taking in what other people are saying. I do try very hard, by the way. I really do try. But it takes a lot of effort. It's intense, trying to stay on track of it. And it takes me a long time to process what someone is saying to me in order to kind of like form a picture in my head as to to extract meaning, basically, from what they're trying to say. And I do feel this can make me come across as a bit dense and a bit slow at times, which doesn't pay tribute to my very high intelligence, which can then make me feel rather stupid, even though I know I'm not. Well, at least I'm not stupid. Stupid's the wrong word, and rather derogatory, I shouldn't really use that. No one's stupid. I can't think of a better word, though. What I mean is not very bright, okay? But I am bright verbally, not non-verbally, but verbally I am. But because of this slow processing, it could take me a while to kind of formulate, to utilise the intelligence. It's like the intelligence is there, but it takes me a while for it to come out. So someone might ask me a question, and I know the answer, but I can't extract it, hence I then appear stupid, because it's often a very common sense question, and I don't know the answer. I do know the answer, it's just I can't extract the information. Someone might say something really basic, such as what is the capital of a certain country, and I know the answer, but slow processing, I can't think of the answer. Then it appears like I'm not very intelligent. Actually, I do know, it's just I can't extract the answer. That's just kind of an example. There are probably better ones, but that's the only one I can sort of think of to explain what I mean. Or I might say something which doesn't appear very intelligent, but it's because I can't think, and it's because I can't think quickly enough to create a more intelligent response in that sort of social setting. So again, it can appear like I feel like it kind of annoys me because it makes me feel stupid, even though I'm not. So yeah, I think that's an example of a slow processing issue. So socially, I feel that this slow processing speed is behind a lot of my problems socially. And I would be interested to know if they've done any research. I'm not sure if they have, but they should do research into the impact of processing speed on the social difficulties in autism, because they've done research on like theory of mind and stuff like that, and obviously theory of mind is a big part of the social problems in autism. But I'm wondering whether slow processing speed can make that difficulty more pronounced, or could actually be behind some of the theory of mind difficulties, or someone might have some theory of mind, but because of the slow processing, they can't utilise it quickly enough. So, disentangling those issues, I feel they should do more research on, because I do wonder sometimes to what extent it's processing speed more than theory of mind in some autistic cases that is behind a lot of the problems. Like, because with theory of mind does require processing. Like, I can process the theory of mind kind of very slowly and laboriously, but in social settings, obviously, get fast paced. So to what extent is it that the person doesn't have theory of mind, or to what extent is it that they do have some, but they can't access it because of the slow processing speed? I feel that maybe they need to do more research into that. But let me know if any of you have this problem. And the other thing with slow processing speed, so not only does it affect social situations, like not being able to formulate a response quick enough, not being able to process all the social cues quick enough, zoning out, because you can't focus enough to stay on track because it's all going too fast, even though you want to stay on track. But for me, I feel it's as soon as I come off track, that's it. The game's over. I've completely zoned out. Kind of the words coming at you too quickly for your brain to process them, having to focus so hard on what the person is saying that it's really exhausting. Because again, inevitably you're going to switch zone out again. By that point, the conversation has moved on, and you're still like, what was that? Because you're still trying to process what they were trying to say, like a couple of minutes ago, sometimes up to 10 minutes ago. You're still trying to process what they've said, and they've moved on to something completely different. And the thing is that there's only so many times you can ask a person to say what they've just said without coming across as really dense and not focusing. So like, sometimes I just don't bother to ask them again because I sort of don't want to come across as too I worry they might think I'm rude or something. So there's that. So it affects social, but the other thing that processing speed problems can affect, I feel, is energy. Like, it takes me a lot of time to process each activity. So getting up in the morning, that takes a lot of energy. That can take me a very, very long time. And then each thing takes me a lot of energy. And then I need time to kind of decompress after each thing a lot of the time to kind of move on to the next activity, like to transition from one thing to the next takes me a lot of time to process as well. And as I've already said, I have a very early bedtime, and that's because I use up so much energy during the day. But again, obviously, being extremely anxious also affects processing as well. And obviously, the more anxious, so I've already got a slow processing speed, but again, my anxiety again adds an extra sort of bottleneck to that, and it becomes even worse. So it's like a sort of vicious circle where anxiety makes the processing speed slower, the slow processing speed worse than anxiety, and so on. I think something like that anyway. I would say I'm quite a productive person, nonetheless. I do actually do quite a lot, but the things I do is all to do with my hyper focus interest, like my preoccupations, and obviously my major preoccupation is cooking. So the energy I do have during the day and the processing I do have is all spent on cooking, which happens to be one of the few functional things I actually excel at. So I guess I am quite lucky in that one of my interests does happen to be functional. And although I do struggle with executive functioning a lot, because cooking is one of my major special interests and preoccupations, because I've invested a hell of a lot of time and effort over the years to perfecting the cooking skills, and I've learnt it and I've memorised it and I've done it over and over again, I would say that as long as I'm kind of left to my own devices and not distracted, and I can cook really well, but that's because I'm really interested in it. So I sort of feel, again, it's that spiky profile, and obviously a lot of autistics really do struggle with cooking. I guess I'm maybe a little bit of a minority in that I excel at cooking. I'm sure there are other autistics who excel at cooking, but cooking doesn't often seem to be one of an autistic strengths. But I just happen to be really interested in cooking. But other autistics have skills I don't have, like some might be a lot better at paperwork, whereas I can't do paperwork at all. Or I know one person I know who can't cook for the life of her, but is relatively good at paperwork, whereas I can't do paperwork at all. So each autistic person has a different set of things they are okay at and things they struggle at. So I feel it's not that there's a complete blanket executive functioning deficit across all domains. I feel that it's selective depending upon what you're interested in. And that's to do with the spiky profile in autism that I feel people often don't understand. They're like, oh, you could do that, so you could do this. Not realising that it's a spiky profile. I feel that's one of the biggest things in autism that people often don't understand, is the spiky profile. In fact, you might be really good at one thing, if it happens to be your area of interest, and really not good at other things. But people are going to expect you to be good at everything because you're good at this one thing. Anyway, I've just been waffling on a bit. So moving on to video number 2 now, I'm just sort of waffling on, But moving on to video number 2.